A reading from Matthew 28, verses 1 to 10. After the Sabbath, as the first day of the week was dawning, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to see the tomb. And suddenly there was a great earthquake, for an angel of the Lord, descending from heaven, came and rolled back the stone and sat on it. His appearance was like lightning, and his clothing white as snow. For fear of him, the guards shook and became like dead men. But the angel said to the women, "Do not be afraid, for I know that you are looking for Jesus, who was crucified. He is not here, for he has been raised, as he said. Come, see the place where he lay. Then go quickly and tell his disciples, he has been raised from the dead, and indeed, he is going ahead of you to Galilee. There you will see him. This is my message for you." So they left the tomb quickly with fear and great joy and ran to tell his disciples. Suddenly, Jesus met them and said, "Greetings." And they came to him, took hold of his feet, and worshiped him. Then Jesus said to them, "Do not be afraid. Go and tell my brothers and sisters to go to Galilee. There they will see me." The two Marys went to the tomb. Matthew doesn't tell us why. So we're left to imagine why they went back to the tomb a couple of days after they left, when it was sealed up. Guards posted outside the tomb to ensure that the tomb was secure. Maybe Mary had some inkling that something was going to happen that morning. They were, after all, two of the few people who had remained faithful when practically everybody else had given up on the idea that Jesus was the Messiah. Perhaps they refused to believe that Jesus was really dead for good. Or maybe they didn't really know why they went to the tomb that morning at dawn. They just went because they felt a holy nudge. When they arrived at the tomb, the earth shook, repeating what happened when Jesus hung on the cross. Any of you who have experienced an earthquake know that it feels really unsettling. Nothing is ever certain in an earthquake. And in a similar way, the resurrection destabilized everything. The stone that the political and religious authorities had so carefully and securely sealed in place was moved with seemingly no issue by the angel of the Lord. And then, as if mocking that stone that once tried to contain Jesus, the stone became nothing more than a chair for that angel to casually sit on. The political and religious authorities of the time tried to contain the truth about Jesus by sealing that tomb with a stone, but that stone was nothing for God. God could not be contained. The truth about God could not be contained. Once God's plan to save the world through Jesus coming into the world to live as a human was set into motion, there was nothing that could stop God's plan from being accomplished. Through the whole telling of this story, there's a sense of urgency. Things happened quickly. When the women arrived at the tomb, suddenly there was an earthquake. The angel told the women to go quickly to tell Jesus' disciples that he had been raised from the dead and was going to Galilee. The women left the tomb quickly. And then Jesus met them suddenly. One thing rapidly led to the next. The story keeps moving because Jesus' resurrection isn't the end of this story. It's actually the beginning of the story. There's a lot of reasons for the urgency in this story, but one of the reasons is that the story must keep moving and going. Easter isn't the culmination of everything. Today is the beginning of a whole season in which Jesus will continue to be revealed to us. The journey is just beginning. Just like the season of spring is just the beginning of new life, Easter is just the beginning. This story that began 2,000 years ago with Jesus' resurrection is continuing on today with us in this place. We are here living on the story that started with Jesus' resurrection. I heard something this week that made me think for a long, long while. What I heard is that Easter doesn't change the fact that the world is a broken place. I think we usually hear the opposite. That Jesus' rising from the dead changes everything. That the resurrection changes the world. But the reality is that we all woke up to a world this morning that is still filled with war and hunger and poverty and injustice. We do still live in a broken and sin-filled world. However, what is true is that the brokenness of the world changes nothing about God and who we are as children of God. God is still God. We are still beloved children of God. God and God's love will prevail over all the evil and death and brokenness of the world. God and who we are will never change. What is also true is all these amazing promises that are made in this account of the resurrection have not and will not change. When the women left the tomb to go tell the world that Jesus had been raised from the dead, and that all that he had promised about new life was indeed true, they went with both fear and great joy. Isn't this about how we go about our lives? And perhaps this is more true with every passing day. We become more and more aware that our world is broken and doesn't seem to be getting any better. Yet, as we enter more fully into our faith and deepen our relationship with Jesus, there is more joy in being reminded of the promises that were kept with Jesus' resurrection. Mary Magdalene and the other Mary were comforted with the words, "Do not be afraid." They heard these words from the angel and from Jesus. And they saw that Jesus had been raised from the dead with their very own eyes, and they touched him with their own hands. In a situation that surely felt overwhelming and chaotic and scary, they were promised that Jesus was going ahead of them. Jesus was going ahead to prepare the way, and he would be there when they arrived, present and with them. And then that final promise from Jesus is so powerful. There they will see me. And the same promise remains true for us today. You will see Jesus. Perhaps in different ways and forms than his original disciples, but you will see Jesus. Jesus is still with us. God's promises are still true. God has not abandoned us. God is not dead. God is alive. And God will free all people. With fear and great joy, we will see Jesus. The fear still exists, but the fear should not and cannot stop us. Just like that sealed stone against Jesus' tomb did nothing to stop Jesus from rising from the dead, fear can do nothing to stop us from moving forward and joining in God's story. The world may try to put obstacles in our way as we try to bring the good news into our community, into our world. the world may try to frustrate our efforts. But we have the good news on our side. Nothing can stop us from bringing the good news. Nothing can stop God from bringing the good news into the world. The rest of the world probably thought the two Marys were a bit out of their minds, as they thought they might see an alive Jesus on that first Easter. But they went to the tomb to see, and they saw Jesus. And as we continue to live in this ongoing story of Jesus's resurrection, Jesus too will continue to break through. We too will see Jesus. Because of all this, we can go out with confidence into our daily lives, into the community, to proclaim that the good news that Jesus is alive. We can proclaim that even while the world is still a broken place, that God is God, and that we and all people are children of God, beloved, forgiven, given God's grace. We can proclaim with boldness and confidence that Jesus is alive, and that by his love, we and all people are free. Thanks be to God. Amen.